Welcome to my tutorial for TMNT Cowabunga for the PC. Normally I don't play PC games just because, I play most of my modern games on, recent consoles, the most modern consoles and everything in between, but I don't play a lot of PC games since I don't have a PC strong enough to run, AAA PC games. But on my emulation PC, which I use to play all emulated games, everything from Wii and, down to the oldest computers and consoles, it's a decent enough power to play some of these indie-style games that are in the older style, so I can run some of these games. I actually have a decent little collection of older PC games in this style, indie-style games, that I'm starting to explore now. One recent one was Street Fighter X Mega Man, and that's a cross between Street Fighter and Mega Man. Actually a very cool game that I started working on, so I'm going to explore more of these. This game was made by someone who was inspired by the style of the Game Boy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games, and that's what this takes from. Now you see some issues here where I'm jumping through the platform even though I'm lined up with it. There is some issues with this game, and I'm going to address those more in a separate review. But one big issue was that to switch turtles, I had to switch the keyboard controls to get the turtle switching to work. And, doing that in the middle of the game, you really can't do that on a boss. It takes too long. So I would have to switch turtles before the boss fight. And because of that, the game took me a lot longer to beat. It took me around an hour and 22 minutes because I was pretty much having to survive boss fights with one turtle. I was unable to use the feature of swapping out. Now, this first boss is very easy to exploit. Just get under him and start smashing him, and you'll stun lock him. He'll have a lot of trouble trying to get out of that. And now for the bonus stages, they're all the same. They just get faster and more difficult. I was using rapid fire on the controller, so that may help to shoot a little bit faster. But either way, if you're mashing the button, you just want to try to group them together and take out as many of them as you can, obviously. There's not really any real good tips that I have for it. It is important to beat these bonus stages, especially later on. It just makes it a lot easier. Otherwise, you may not have a lot of health for the final stage, especially that. Because Krang, there's a Krang boss, and he can do a lot of damage and take down a lot of your health if you don't do well on him. The game is actually, pretty damn easy, though, overall. The enemies really don't provide much of a challenge at all. And you're mainly just going to be moving through the routes that you see me taking. I don't take many side routes, since by this point I had a pretty good idea where to go. Collecting the extra items, there's really no benefit to it most of the time. You can pick up the occasional pizza if you want a little health, but there's only a few spots where you may want to grab one. But you really don't need them a lot of times, because you can just switch out to your turtle that has full health and just fucking destroy the bosses with one turtle, especially with the strategies I show, which are not much of a strategy, but they do work. So it should be pretty easy. You shouldn't have to worry about picking up health items. Now, if you want to get a better ending, you can try to pick up all these little canisters. Now, see, the jumping is weird, like I said, so it can get pretty fucking sloppy. You really have to be at the edge of the platform. The other issue is jumping in this game was set to rapid fire. So if you hold it a little too long, you jump again. If like a millisecond too long, very irritating. But there was nothing I could do to correct it. I had to use Xpadder, a separate program to map the keyboard controls to a joystick. Or, an M30 controller. It's a Sega Genesis, Sega Saturn style controller that I use for a lot of these games. So yeah, for this boss, just get up to him, keep smacking him. You can use rapid fire or just keep mashing the attack button. And you'll destroy his bullets and stun him at the same time. You won't take any damage if you do it right. And for Rocksteady on the top, just jump kick him. As long as your head is hitting him while you're jump kicking, you'll hit him each time and he won't be able to damage you from down there. So very, very easy. I believe I took no damage on that fight. Same thing here, it just gets more aggressive, as you can tell. It gets faster. These are based off the old Shinobi arcade game. But yeah, I am going to review this game in a moment. After I finish recording this tutorial, I'll do a review for it and give more of my thoughts on that. So this is one of the trickier stages. There's only 5 stages, but this is one of the trickier ones. You have to watch out for these spears. If you double tap forward, you can run. And aside from that, you can jump and attack to do a jump kick. And you can switch turtles with the space bar. But now if you map the controller, you can map the space bar to a button on the controller, which is what I recommend doing. If you're playing on a keyboard, you don't have to worry about that, as you can just hit the spacebar on the keyboard, you know. But I never play these kind of games with a keyboard. I don't play anything with a keyboard. But if you're already accustomed to that control scheme, then you won't have to worry about mapping the controls. It should be a lot easier to just jump into the game. And you won't have to worry about having a problem with switching turtles, which is, I don't know why it was such a problem. Even when I used the joystick setting in the game itself, turtle switching would not work. It would just flip through the turtles, and it wouldn't actually let me play as them. So I had to do some weird shit to get it to work. It was a pain in the ass. So for most of the game, I just tried to play it as it was, and, you know, it took a lot longer because I couldn't switch out on the bosses, which made some of the bosses tricky. When you can switch turtles, you can use their health bars, so you can switch to another turtle with more health. And, you know, by doing that, you have 4 turtles to switch between. You can keep your health up. You essentially have 4 health bars that you can switch between, so makes things a lot easier if you're able to do that. But originally, I just didn't have the control set up to do that properly. These are easy enough to time. The problem here is that, you want to wait for one pair of spikes to disappear before you move. There's a rhythm to it. The reason it got so sloppy is because the way I mapped the controller, it puts jump on rapid fire, which pretty much really fucks up the controls. So I just had to deal with that. It was just more of an issue of not being able to map it correctly. And you may be able to get around that. It's not that big of a deal because the game is still easy enough, even if you take some damage on there. So for this guy, you just want to get behind him and hit him in the back a few times and just keep doing that. Whenever you can, try to get behind him and take a few smacks. It's a very easy boss. It's probably the hardest boss in the game, only because you actually have to do something instead of just standing in front of the boss and smacking him constantly. Most of the bosses, that's all you really have to do, just get in front of them and just keep mashing the button. I mean, Krang is a little bit trickier, but it's a similar technique. The problem with Krang is that he has some projectiles that can do like half of your health damage. So you got to watch your health bar when you fight him. These do get trickier. If one of the foot soldiers makes it to the, forward of the screen all the way, then you just lose. You don't die though, so you won't get full health replenishment. When you beat the bonus stages, you get all your health back for all your turtles, so that's why you want to beat them. You can also collect the pizza occasionally to replenish health on one of your turtles that has low health. So you want to swap out to the one that has low health. There are no lives or continues in the game, so if you die with any of the turtles, then it's just game over. It is a very short game, though. These rock soldiers are very easy. Usually you can hit them with one jump kick and then smack them once or twice and it will defeat them. They almost never will hit me when I'm inside their body like that. They won't even damage me, so they're extremely easy. Most of the time I just ignore a lot of the enemies. I killed that one because, I went through the platform because of the shitty platforming detection. You really have to be on the edge of platforms or it doesn't count. Another really big issue with this game that I'm not showing here is that you can totally glitch out and have to reset the game. If you're climbing a ladder and you jump, it seems at the wrong moment, you will be stuck in the ladder climbing position, and a lot of times you can't break out of it and just have to reset the game. So that happened to me more than a few times, so it is a very big irritation with the game. Luckily the game is short, but it's still irritating. So for Krang, I recommend getting up on one of these platforms and just keep smacking them. The choice of turtle doesn't seem to affect the game too much, but you can try using Leonardo if you want. He seemed to do well here with this character, with this enemy, so you may want to try that. He can usually be more of a pain in the ass. I killed him fast there, but he usually ends up hitting me a few times, and he'll do like half your life in damage if one of those projectiles hits. So be ready to look at your keep an eye on your health bar and be ready to switch out turtles if you want to stay alive. So this is the hardest of the bonus stages and the last bonus stage. But it's more of the same. It's just faster. Just try to group them together and take them out if you can. And you'll get all your life back. Hopefully you have full life for the final stage. Otherwise it can be tricky if you didn't refill all your life. I mean, you don't have to have everyone at full life, but it does help. So this final stage, it's the Techno Drum. It's more like a fucking maze, but it's a very simple maze. I didn't have to look anything up. And I don't have the route memorized, but Since this is currently the only playthrough of the game online, there are no other playthroughs of the game online, or at least on YouTube. So, I mean, this is probably, for a tutorial, this is the best information you're going to have available, unless you just played and experiment with different paths. It didn't take me too long to find my way out of here, so you may take a few wrong turns, but it shouldn't take you too long to find your way through the level by following the route that I take. If you're getting completely lost, then I would just recommend just following my route because it's easy anyway. The enemies are all like, they have like, no threat really. I mean, jump kick these guys. The rock soldiers smack them a few times. It's extremely easy. You just have to watch out for some of the electricity obstacles and shit like that. Just wait for the electricity to go off. And then you got a moment to run past or jump past. I was just randomly taking portholes. My train of thought was that I would try to take the portholes that were more out of the way because I assumed, the designer of the game would probably make the correct path, the one that's more, like farther out of the way. That was just my logic with it, and it seemed to work pretty well. I think I made a few wrong turns, but I got out of there pretty fast. Now going up here, I think I ended up going on a repeat path, so you probably don't want to go up here. But this is all stuff, I had to experiment because I didn't know the correct path. See, now I'm back in the same area again. And I think I check up here to see, and I realize it's the same shit, so I went back down. And I believe this is the correct path now. To the left over here. This seemed to take me to a new area. But again, I don't have these mapped out at all, but I seem to get the correct path fairly quickly without too many mess ups. There's some pizza here, you get a little health back. And now is the semi-final boss, Krang, which is very easy. I just pretty much do the same thing I did with the other version of Krang, the floating version. Basically, just get up close to him and start smacking. And I believe it takes out some of the projectiles too, so you get pretty minimum damage. But keep an eye on your health. If it starts to get low, switch out to one of the other turtles, just so you can stay alive. And that's it. So as long as you're switching turtles, you should be able to survive that pretty easily by just smacking them around. Now there's only a little bit of game left before you get the Shredder. Now if you want those cylinders, you can go get that cylinder down there. I think if you get all of them, you get a better ending. But I don't care about story or anything like that. And I'm not into collecting shit, so I didn't bother with all that. So now here's the final boss. And I had no real strategy for this, different than what I did with the other characters, Get up to the boss and just mash the button. I just tried doing it that way. Since it was my first time getting to this boss, and, I beat him the first time I got to him, so. Now, some of the turtles don't seem to connect with him. It doesn't seem to really land, so try swapping out turtles until you get one. You want to see the animation where he looks like he's getting hit. It looks like he's, taking a shit. You got fucking drops coming out of his face or something. So when you see that, you're damaging him. And, just swap turtles as needed to stay alive if your health is getting low. Very, very easy game. But I thought it would be good to, to break down a playthrough of the game since it's short enough. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.